there are two significant newsworthy revelations in the report that we saw today, which did not coincidentally drop on a Friday before a long weekend. The first of which is that Mrs. Clinton used at least 13 mobile devices during her time at the State Department. Recall that her initial excuse for setting up the private server was that she wanted the convenience of one device. She used 13. Now, she was warned personally and explicitly on two occasions that doing official classified business on unsecure BlackBerries was putting sensitive information at risk. She continued to do so anyway. And now we find out today that several, an undisclosed number, but several of those BlackBerries were lost. She lost these cell phones filled with classified information that she wasn't supposed to be using in the first place. That is breathtaking, one. And two, this is important as well. With the timeline that is pieced together in the documents that we saw today, Hillary Clinton's team began to purge and scrub her email archives, which were under congressional subpoena at the time, a few weeks after the New York Times first reported the existence of her server. If that is not obstruction or intent, I don't know what is.
Caller, there is yet more trouble for the Clinton campaign this morning.
Well, that's exactly right. We saw, of course, an FBI probe into the security of Hillary Clinton's private server. Now, in 3 cities, according to new reporting, U.S. attorneys, in conjunction with the FBI, are investigating the activities of the Clinton Foundation, which, as you know, has been accused in recent months of basically selling access to foreign strongmen, to foreign governments, and those seeking to influence the U.S. government.
Right, so this is going on in 3 different cities, in Washington, D.C., and here in New York, and also in Little Rock, Arkansas, where the Clinton Foundation was launched in order to get the Clinton Library off the ground. But what does all this mean for Hillary Clinton and her future? Terry Turchi, a former Deputy Assistant Director of the FBI, was on the program earlier and says this.
The email investigation, the first one, involved violations of the espionage statute. It pretty much centered on the idea of gross negligence and mishandling classified information. This is different in that this involves violations of the criminal statutes involving corruption, and you could look at a vast range of charges here. The other major difference here is that in the one case we talked about the emails. They were the case. In this instance, the emails might very well have the content that helps make the case. As opposed to the first email case, this is a series of crimes that involve specific intent.
Criminal corruption. We talked to Judge Jeanine Pirro yesterday on the show, and I asked her, when does this become illegal? She says it is already illegal. And the idea that you could fly Bill Clinton in, pay him hundreds of thousands of dollars for a speech, and then suddenly you're able to have access to meetings at the State Department a few weeks later after you've paid her husband hundreds of thousands of dollars or donated money to the Clinton Foundation.
What do you think is motivating these field offices, Tucker, and the FBI to do this? I mean, is it the meeting that Bill Clinton had with Loretta Lynch on the tarmac? Is that raising eyebrows? Since the DOJ in Washington, D.C. isn't doing this, they're reportedly going to? Or
there's just so much. I mean, the fact that an employee of Hillary Clinton's was working both for the State Department and for the Clinton Foundation and for a third group simultaneously is such an obvious conflict of interest, it's hard to believe it was allowed. Here's the tragedy. Hillary Clinton could get elected president, soon, in 90 days. If that happens, this stuff is not going to go away. The President of the United States will have her activities under scrutiny from the FBI. That's bad for America. The press should have been on this 15 years ago when it all began.
There are, in multiple cities, ongoing investigations as we speak of the Clinton Foundation. I've just been told it's most likely that those, and this is brand new that I'll be reporting later tonight, that it appears that some of those investigations are centered in Little Rock, Arkansas, Washington, D.C., and in New York City.
Right, and so far we had only heard about the New York City one.
Multiple FBI investigations are underway involving potential corrupt charges against the Clinton Foundation, according to a former senior law enforcement official. The investigation centers on New York City, where the Clinton Foundation has its main offices. You got it? You guys hear what I'm saying? Are you with me? Pound it out.
Sean, right now, Preet Bharara, who is the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York and one of the most crusading U.S. attorneys in America, has been working alongside the FBI, along with 2 other U.S. attorneys, one in Little Rock and another in Washington, D.C., investigating Hillary Clinton's connection to the Clinton Foundation when she was Secretary of State. This investigation is, I would say, hotter than ever. And I think that Comey, James Comey, the director of the FBI, who flamed out and failed to do what he should have done in the first place, which was indict her for the emails, may try to redeem himself now with the public corruption charge that Hillary was dealing in pay-to-play with the Clinton Foundation.
Wow. So what do you think? Tell us what you know is happening. I want you to dig as deep as you can go here and tell us everything you know that's going on. Now, come on. And I don't want you holding back. Just come on. Come out with it, Ed.
What I do know is that Preet Bharara, the U.S. Attorney for the Southern District of New York, and James Comey, the FBI director, are not only associates because they're both associated with the Justice Department, but they're good friends. They see each other when they're in each other's cities, New York and Washington, D.C., their wives, and they have dinner together. And Comey has been in touch with Bharara for months on the subject of Hillary Clinton's public corruption with the Clinton Foundation while she was Secretary of State. And Bharara has now lined up several witnesses, at least one of whom used to work for the Clinton Foundation. And he is digging into this big...
He's the head of the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York and has a history of taking down big-time banks and politicians. Bharara has prosecuted diplomats and 100 Wall Street executives. He has reached historic settlements and fines with the 4 largest banks in the U.S. and closed multi-billion-dollar hedge funds. He has prosecuted New York State politicians, including the Speaker of the House, Sheldon Silver, and the Majority Leader of the Senate, both Democrats, and at one time even threatened to take on the Governor of New York.
We're investigating corruption in every place you can imagine one might find it. In the legislature, in unions, as we see today, in the executive branch, and I was making a broad and general point, deliberately lacking in specificity.